Good evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman Television. First, the headlines. At a cost of more than 100 million Omani riyals, 3 electricity transmission stations are launched in the wilaya of Sohar. The 5th GCC Laboratory Proficiency Conference discusses in Muscat the mechanism of enhancing cooperation in monitoring the fuel and petrochemical fields. And the first international conference of Oman Library and Information Association reviews the role of Omanis in human civilization. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. With the aim to enhance attracting investment plans at Sohar Port and the Free Zone, Oman Electricity Transmission Company celebrated today the launching of 3 400 kilovolt electricity transmission stations. The project came within the strategy of developing and enhancing integrated electricity transmission in the Sultanate. The project includes 3 stations for enhancing economic and social development in Sohar Port, Free Zone and Seih al-Makarim in the wilaya of Sohar in the governorate of North Batna. The investment value for these projects reached around 100 million Omani riyals. The Shura Council approved a report of the joint committee between the Shura and State Councils on the draft law of regulating of practicing profession of medicine and auxiliary medical professions forwarded from the Council of Ministers. The Council, in its 6th session, decided the merge of recommendations of 2 studies of youth and economic committees on job seekers after approving it. It also approved the report of Youth and Human Resources Committees on analyzing and following the recruitment of national manpowers, which aims to analyze the number of national and expatriate manpowers in the public and private sectors. His Excellency Khalid bin Hilal Al-Ma'wali, Chairman of Shura Council, headed the session. The State Council Office reviewed the suggestion for upgrading mineral wealth in the Sultanate. This suggestion aimed to monitor mining sector challenging being faced and finding minerals-based industries in the Sultanate. The Council's office also discussed suggestions on benefiting from experts and specialists after their retirement, in addition to electronic media suggestions and discussing project of statistics, information and visuals law presented by the Economic Committee about initial vision on document Oman 2040. The first international conference for Oman Library and Information Association started in Muscat under the slogan, "The Profession of Information and Social Responsibility." The conference aims at emphasizing the role of libraries in developing information awareness and activating scientific communication among those interested in sciences through libraries in the Sultanate and abroad. The conference stressed on the role of Omani people in humanitarian civilization, who contributed through publishing thousands of scientific books and library works through ages. The conference launched with the participation of researchers and specialists in libraries from inside and outside the Sultanate. The inauguration ceremony was presided over by His Excellency Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdullah Al-Hinai, advisor of the state. Oman Library and Information Association stressed on the prosperity of the Omani Library and the diversity of its services with intellectual works in different fields. Still to come in our news bulletin. The seminar on Our Children and the Future Media calls to produce targeted radio and television content and broadcast them in the social media websites.
Why is competition good for businesses? Businesses compete in things like price, quality and service to win new customers who could be other businesses as well as consumers. Being competitive can mean more customers choose you rather than your rivals. But when businesses collude and don't compete, this can lower down the quality and service, and the consumers paying more than they should. This is an unlawful practice and can stop consumers from getting more options on goods and services with better quality and better prices. That's why the Competition Protection and Monopoly Prevention Law was issued, to regulate the freedom of practicing any economic activities and stabilize the principles of the market rules and freedom of pricing, in such manner that the same shall not restrict competition, prevent the same, or be negatively affected, thereby to benefit consumers, businesses, and the national economy. Breaching any of the law's clauses could lead to prison sentences and fines up to 100,000 Omani Riyals. The punishment can also include paying 10% of the total annual sales of the products subject of the violation, as well as damage to the business's reputation. Help us in preventing anti-competitive activities by contacting the following numbers. And to know more about the law and the prohibited activities, please visit our website www.cmc.om. Competition Protection and Monopoly Prevention Center.
Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman Television. Madain witnessed a tremendous growth and business expansion activities in the industrial estates in 2018, with more than 450 new investment requests and over 50 expansion contracts for existing projects. The investment volume increased by 2% compared to 2017. The seventh phase of Sahar Industrial City infrastructure is nearing its completion with the inauguration of the commercial facilities and the first stage of Labour Village. Madain obtained necessary permits to establish new industrial parks in Thamreit and Shanas in the first industrial zones under the management of the private sector. Madain is currently conducting a number of concurrent expansion schemes in Raisout, Brahmi, Sur, Nizwa and other areas, spending more than 250 million Omani Riyals. Rear Admiral Abdullah bin Khamis al-Raisi, commander of the Royal Navy of Oman, received in his office at Muaskar al-Murtafa today Rear Admiral Zaka ar-Rahman, Director General of the Pakistan Maritime Security Agency, and his accompanying delegation currently visiting the Sultanate. The two sides exchanged cordial conversations and discussed viewpoints on several matters related to naval fields between the two countries. Rear Admiral Zaka ar-Rahman, Director General of the Pakistan Maritime Security Agency, visited the Maritime Security Center. The guest listened to a comprehensive brief on missions and roles of the center, represented in Command Maritime Security Operations against marine risks, and the roles of the center in coordinating between Sultan Armed Forces and the security and civil bodies in the Sultanate. The seminar, Our Children and the Future Media, called for setting a children media strategy to produce targeted radio and television content and broadcast them in the social media platforms to instill the values of citizenship in the coming generation. The seminar, which came under the umbrella of Muscat Book Fair's cultural program, discussed the impact and risks associated with the social media on children. The seminar was held under the auspices of Her Highness Sayyida Dr. Muna bint Fahad bin Mahmoud Al Saeed. The Ministry of Health and World Health Organization convened today the collaborative program annual meeting under the auspices of His Excellency Dr. Ali bin Talib Al Hinai, Under Secretary for Planning Affairs of Ministry of Health, in the presence of Her Excellency World Health Organization representative at Crown Plaza Hotel, Muscat. More details in the following report by Abdullah bin Ahmed Al Rubai.
The Minister of Health jointly meeting with the World Health Organization WHO began. The meeting is an annual platform to review the progress of the joint Minister of Health WHO cooperation within the framework of 2018-2019 biannual program on the one hand, and to agree on priorities and targets for 2020-2023 on the other, aligning to the national priorities as well as to the WHO's global and regional strategies. The meeting brought together health professionals from various departments of the Ministry of Health, WHO, and health sector representatives from the governorate.
These meetings happen annually between the Ministry of Health and WHO, and what is interesting and new this year is that we're introducing WHO's global agenda of $3 billion goal, which focuses on our accountability as an institution, which is WHO, and impact at country level.
WHO's current technical cooperation is responding to Oman's national drive to address the prevention and control of non-communicable diseases, supporting the achievements in prevention and control of communicable diseases, anchoring the improvements of health over the life course, accompanying the country's efforts in strengthening the health system to ensure universal health coverage and assisting in strengthening the country's institutional capacity for emergency preparedness, surveillance, and effective response to disease outbreaks. During the meeting, a consultative prioritization exercise have undergone aimed at further aligning with national targets, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the WHO's 13th Global Program of Work and the WHO's Vision 2023 for the Eastern Mediterranean region.
Oman has achieved near universal health coverage, which is measured as 75% by index, by investment into primary health care. It is measured through affordability, accessibility, and service package. For the coming years, it is really important for us to focus on maintaining this status and further improving this status through multi-sectorial action.
Primary health care and health for all have been a blueprint for Oman's achievements in public health, making it a country with a near universal health coverage. In the coming years, WHO will continue partnering with Oman's Minister of Health, other sectors and partners towards enhancing the role of primary health care for achieving the universal health coverage. The participants have learned about WHO global strategy and indicators framework for the next 5 years and developing joint program of work between WHO and the government of Oman in accordance with the national priorities and aligning it with the WHO global and regional targets. Abdullah bin Ahmed al-Rubi'i, Sultanate of Oman Television, Muscat.
Raft Fund started applying the British standards for governance and recognition certificates with the effective practice which is implemented by the British Standards Institute. The institute provides its services more than 10,000 companies and institutions with different activities in 170 countries in all over the world. Raft Fund is the first institution in the Sultanate sought to have the governance standards. The fund also aims to provide best services for entrepreneurs as well as provide attractive environment for the talents. The 5th GCC Laboratory Proficiency Conference, organized by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry in cooperation with the GCC Standardization Organization, started in Muscat today. Here's a report with more details by Saleh bin Khalfan Al-Rahbi.
He said, I understand.
The 5th GCC Laboratory Proficiency Conference took place in Muscat today to discuss the latest developments in the petroleum and petrochemical sector and the best international practices in laboratory efficiency. In addition, it sheds light on the prominent challenges and obstacles that face this sector in order to improve the efficiency of laboratories.
This event is about laboratory proficiency. As you all know, the standards and specifications for all products is very important for countries, And through this specification, it has to be there laboratories with efficiency, with proficiency, to do and to test all the products that's coming in and going out of the country. So this seminar, it will talk about how we can increase the efficiency of our laboratories, and also about the standardizations for the product that's coming to Oman or the product that's going to Oman.
The GCC Standardization Organization aims at developing the infrastructure of standardization and quality, which contributes to the development of trade and industry, support the national economy in member countries, and facilitate access to technical services.
The conference is extremely important, particularly from the quality infrastructure point of view. But all of us, every company, every country is faced with too many things to do. We have too many priorities. What I think is really important for this conference is to help set priorities. How does the quality infrastructure impact upon the oil and gas and petroleum sector, which is obviously important to this country and to this world?
A number of experts and heads of international technical committees in the field of laboratory efficiency in the petroleum and petrochemical sector took part in the conference, discussing integration of quality infrastructure of the GCC countries in the field of petroleum and petrochemicals. For the Sultanate of Oman Television, Saleh Baqalfan al-Rahbi, Muscat.
Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries Wealth organized a regional seminar on animal care in partnership with World Organization for Animal Health. The seminar, which attracted many specialists from Oman and other Arab and Gulf countries, focused on issues of transporting live animals over long distance, be it through land or sea, especially between the different governorates or between the country and the neighboring countries. The seminar also addressed the issue of animal care and the applicable animal protection laws in Oman. Now for the general weather focused around the Sultanate. Clear skies will prevail over most of the governorates, with chances of low clouds and fog late at night and early morning over the coast of Governorate of Dhofar. Moderate to high clouds are expected over the northern governorates, with winds will be southeasterly to easterly light to moderate. Seas will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1 meter. This is the Sultanate of Oman Television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. At a cost of more than 100 million Omani riyals, 3 electricity transmission stations are launched in the Wilaya of Sohar. The 5th GCC Laboratory Proficiency Conference discusses in Muscat the mechanism of enhancing cooperation in monitoring the fuel and petrochemical fields. And the 1st International Conference of Oman Library and Information Association reviews the role of Omanis in human civilization. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the studios and the newsroom, it's good night.